Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a new investigation that pulls back the curtain on the hidden links between academic AI research and the explosion of surveillance tech all around us.
We hear a lot about AI for good, all the amazing things it can do. But there's this growing unease, this fear that one part of AI, computer vision, has quietly become the engine for building a future of mass surveillance. A team of researchers decided to stop guessing and actually answer that question with data.
So, just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's quickly define computer vision. It's the part of AI that's all about teaching computers to see, to understand the world from pictures and videos, kind of like we do. The real question is, what are we teaching them to look at?
To figure that out, the researchers basically became digital detectives. They set out to follow the data trail, to see where all this pure academic research actually ends up in the real world.
And their method was, well, massive. They started by digging into more than 19,000 research papers from the world's most prestigious computer vision conference. Then, and this is the crucial part, they tracked which of those papers were cited in over 23,000 patents. They literally mapped the pipeline from the university lab to the commercial product.
Okay, so let's get into what they found. The very first reveal was just how incredibly focused the research is. When they looked at what all of these sophisticated AI systems were being designed to see, one subject just dominated everything else. A whopping 90%. Let that sink in. 90% of the research papers they looked at were designed to extract data about us, about humans. This isn't some niche corner of the field. It's the main event.
And if you look at this breakdown, it gets even more specific. We're not talking about identifying trees or traffic signs here. 68%, the vast majority, is aimed squarely at human bodies and body parts. Another 17% is focused on human spaces, our homes, our offices, the streets we walk down. It's all about us.
And the kinds of applications that come out of this research? Well, they're exactly the things that make people nervous. We're talking about facial recognition, tracking our bodies as we move through a store, and analyzing everything that happens in our private and public lives. These aren't just abstract tasks, they are deeply intrusive.
Now, you might think this is just how it is, but it wasn't always this way. The investigation found that this intense focus on humans isn't just a fact, it's a trend that is accelerating like crazy. Just look at this. When you compare the 1990s to the 2010s, the number of academic papers that ended up being used in surveillance-related patents shot up by more than 5 times. A 500% increase in just 20 years. That's a boom.
And what's really fascinating is how the language itself tells this story. Back in the 90s, the research titles were all about abstract, technical stuff, words like shape, edge, surfaces. Fast forward to the 2010s, and the language completely changes. It's all about person, action, and understanding human meaning, or semantics. The focus shifted from pixels to people.
So it's really easy to think, okay, this must be a few bad apples, right? A couple of shady companies pushing this stuff. But the data from the investigation, it tells a very different story.
I mean, just look at who's building this pipeline. We're talking about the biggest names in tech and academia. For a giant like Microsoft, nearly 90% of its patented computer vision research was found to enable surveillance. For elite universities like Carnegie Mellon and MIT, it's right up there at around 85%. So the big takeaway here is that this isn't an exception, it's the rule. The study found that for the huge majority of institutions and even entire countries doing this work, if they're patenting computer vision research, most of it is fueling surveillance. It's not a bug. It's become a feature of the whole field.
All right. This last discovery might be the most disturbing. It's about how this intense focus on people is often hidden, sometimes very deliberately, right there in the language of the science itself.
Take a look at this direct quote from a research paper. It says that since a system might track people, cars, or animals, they're just going to call all of them moving objects. Just like that, people are linguistically downgraded to objects.
And this creates 2 sneaky ways of hiding the truth. First, there's what they say out loud. We're treating people as a type of object. But second, and maybe more important, is what they don't say. A paper might claim it's about detecting generic objects, but then you look at the pictures and the data they use, and it's just filled with images of people.
And the effect of this is huge. It basically creates a giant loophole. By calling people objects, the entire field gets a green light to develop technology that can be used for human surveillance by default, all while keeping their hands clean, textually speaking. Okay, let's step back and connect all these dots.
We've got a field of research overwhelmingly focused on us. A massive boom in surveillance tech, a trend that's become the norm across the globe, and it's all wrapped in language that hides what's really going on. So what? Why does any of this matter?
Well, all of this technology is building towards what the scholar Shoshana Zuboff calls a condition of no exit. It's a world where there are fewer and fewer places you can go to just not be watched, not be monitored, not be analyzed. A world where being observed is the default setting, and you can't just disconnect.
And that leads to the researchers' main point. They argue that fixing this isn't about banning a few apps or tweaking some code. To really shift away from this surveillance by default world, we need a fundamental reevaluation, what they call a reckoning, with the core principles of computer vision itself.
And that really leaves us with a heavy question to think about. What does a reckoning for an entire scientific field actually look like, especially one that's already so woven into our lives? What kind of future are we building, right now, one research paper at a time?